Every morning gives you two choices. Wake up and repeat yesterday, or wake up and reinvent tomorrow. A creative morning isn't about coffee and calm playlists. It's about the courage to see possibility before the world tells you it's impossible. It's the quiet rebellion against autopilot living. Because creativity doesn't wait for inspiration. It starts moving before certainty arrives. A creative morning begins long before the sun rises. It begins the moment you decide to stop being a consumer of life and start becoming a creator of it. It's in the silence before the noise, the spark before the routine, the thought before the world interrupts it. Those who dare to create in the morning set the rhythm for everyone who follows. They don't chase ideas. They create space for them. And that space, that sacred stillness before the world demands your attention, is where revolutions are born. You see, creativity isn't an act, it's a habit. It's what happens when purpose meets presence. And the truth is, most people don't lack creativity. They've just forgotten to listen to their own thoughts before the day tells them what to think. A creative morning is not about doing more. It's about starting right. Because how you start determines how deeply you'll live the rest of the day. So if you want to change your life, don't start with a plan, start with a morning. Start with intention, curiosity, and courage. Because the world doesn't need more people who wake up on time. It needs more people who wake up alive. Most people wait for inspiration to strike before they begin. They think creativity arrives like a lightning bolt, sudden, unpredictable, divine. But the truth is inspiration doesn't wake you up, intention does. Intention is the decision that today will mean something. It's the quiet contract you sign with yourself before the day begins. And while inspiration depends on emotion, intention depends on commitment. One fades when you're tired, the other stands firm even when you're uncertain. Men often mistake motion for purpose. They wake up early, fill their calendars, chase deadlines, and still feel empty. That's because they start their mornings with obligation, not intention. They're running, but they're not running toward anything. Women, on the other hand, often carry emotional intuition. They can sense meaning in small details, but even they get lost when the noise of life drowns out their why. Both crave direction, yet one seeks to achieve while the other seeks to feel. A creative morning balances both. It gives achievement a reason and emotion a compass. Intention transforms your first hour into your foundation. When you wake with intention, you decide who you're going to be before the world decides it for you. It's not about journaling or rituals. It's about awareness. A man who starts his day scrolling is surrendering his attention to chaos before he's even taken a breath. A woman who wakes up already thinking about everyone else's needs is giving away her energy before she's filled her own. Creativity can't survive in a mind that begins in reaction. It needs a mind that begins in direction. Every great idea begins long before the idea itself. It begins with presence. The mind needs space before it can imagine. The heart needs clarity before it can create. And that's why intention isn't just about what you plan to do. It's about how you plan to be. A creative morning isn't productive because of the number of tasks completed. It's powerful as the alignment it creates. When your actions match your inner values, even the smallest step feels meaningful. That's where flow begins. Men often think they need motivation to move, but what they really need is meaning. Motivation fades the moment resistance appears, but meaning gives you a reason to keep going, even when nothing feels exciting. Women often wait for the right moment to start, hoping everything aligns before they move. But the right moment never comes. It's created the moment you commit. Intention doesn't wait for conditions. It creates them. It's what separates those who react to life from those who design it. The power of intention is that it turns ordinary mornings into creative ones. It teaches you that you don't need to feel inspired to do something that matters. You just need to choose to show up differently. It's not about starting your day perfectly. It's about starting it purposefully. When you rise with intention, you don't just wake your body, you awaken your mind, your energy, your why. And that changes everything about how the day unfolds. Most people are afraid of silence because silence forces them to meet themselves. In a world addicted to noise, notifications, opinions, and endless motion, silence feels uncomfortable. But silence isn't empty. It's full of answers waiting to be heard. It's where creativity learns to speak, not in the chaos of doing, but in the calm of being. The most powerful ideas don't shout, they whisper. And only those who have learned to quiet the noise long enough can hear them. Men often equate silence with weakness or passivity. They've been conditioned to fill every gap with action, every pause with performance. But silence doesn't mean the absence of movement. It means the presence of awareness. It's where a man learns to separate reaction from reason, noise from necessity. When he learns to sit in silence, he discovers that creativity doesn't come from doing more. It comes from seeing more. For women, silence carries a different weight. Many have learned to stay quiet to avoid judgment or rejection. But when a woman chooses silence for herself, not because she's silenced by others, it becomes power. It becomes the space where her thoughts form strength before they find sound. Creativity thrives in stillness because stillness clears the fog that distraction creates. When the mind slows down, ideas begin to form naturally like ripples in still water. Silence gives those ideas shape. It's the invisible mentor that helps us connect patterns we didn't even know existed. When you start your morning in silence, before the emails, before the conversations, you give your mind permission to align before it performs. You stop chasing clarity and start creating it. Every great thinker, artist, and leader understands the sacred value of quiet. Not because it's peaceful, but because it's revealing. In silence, you hear your doubts, your desires, and your truth without distortion. Men who dare to sit in silence often find answers that logic alone couldn't uncover. Women who return to silence reconnect with intuition that the world has taught them to suppress. Silence is not a retreat, it's a return. A return to what's real, raw, and ready to be expressed. The problem is that most people start their day surrounded by other people's thoughts. They wake up to headlines, messages, and noise that hijack their attention before they even found their own rhythm. A creative morning, however, begins with silence. Not because it's comfortable, but because it's necessary. It's the pause before expression, the inhale before the exhale of creation. The more space you give your mind to breathe, the more clearly it speaks back to you. Silence doesn't demand productivity, it invites presence. It teaches men to listen to their emotions before they turn into pressure, and teaches women to honor their intuition before it gets drowned out by expectation. In silence, creativity doesn't need permission to appear. It simply does. Because the mind that can sit quietly long enough to listen is the same mind that will one day create something worth hearing. Most people don't lose their creativity because they fail, they lose stop being curious. Routine kills more ideas than failure ever will, not because structure is wrong, but because repetition without reflection twice into autopilot. The danger of routine is that it slowly convinces you that predictability is safety. But creativity doesn't live in safety. It lives in uncertainty. Every idea that ever changed the world was born from someone to break their pattern. Men often find comfort in routine because it gives them control. It's a shield against chaos, a structure that feels like progress. But what they don't realize is that the same routine that builds stability can also build blindness. When every morning looks the same, you stop noticing the details that once inspired you. You start performing instead of creating. For women, routine often becomes a cycle of responsibility. It's not just structure, it's survival. They move from one obligation to another, holding everything together, but rarely holding space for themselves. Creativity suffocates in that rhythm because there's no room to breathe between expectations. The truth is, failure teaches, routine numbs. When you fail, you feel something. You analyze, you adjust, you grow. But when you repeat the same day over and over, you stop feeling altogether. You might still be moving, but your inner spark dims quietly, unnoticed. The tragedy isn't that people stop succeeding. It's that they stop imagining. And imagination doesn't die dramatically. It fades slowly in the repetition of comfort. A creative morning challenges that comfort. It's the moment you decide to disrupt your own pattern, to take a different route, to question your own habits, to start your day with curiosity instead of certainty. When you break your routine intentionally, you remind your brain that life isn't meant to be predictable. It's meant to be discovered. Men often need that disruption to reconnect with purpose. It shakes them out of mechanical living. Women need it to reconnect with presence, to remind themselves they're not just managing life, they're meant to design it. Routine serves you only when it's fueled by awareness. The goal isn't to destroy structure, it's to breathe life into it. A morning routine without purpose is just motion disguised as meaning. But when you infuse your habits with intention, when you ask why you're doing what doing, routine becomes rhythm. And rhythm, unlike repetition, invites flow. It gives space for creativity to dance with inconsistency. People often think creativity requires chaos, but it doesn't. It requires freshness. The mind needs novelty to stay alive, to stay curious. That's why children are endlessly creative. They haven't yet learned to live the same day twice. Men lose that spark when they trade wonder for productivity. Women lose it when they trade imagination for obligation. The most creative people aren't those who abandon routine. They're the ones who refuse to let it become a cage. Creativity dies the moment life stops surprising you. And routine, left unchecked, is the slowest way to stop feeling surprised. Most people wake up and immediately reach for their phones, not because they're curious, but because they're conditioned. Before they've even taken their first breath of the day, they've consumed the thoughts, opinions, and emotions of 100 strangers. And in doing so, they lose the most creative part of themselves, their originality. Create before you consume isn't a productivity rule, it's a philosophy for protecting your voice in a world that profits from your distraction. The moment you begin your day by reacting, you hand over authorship of your mind to someone else. Men are especially vulnerable to this because they often define worth through achievement. They wake up chasing validation before creating value. They scroll for information, motivation, or comparison, thinking it will fuel them, but it only drains them. Consumption gives the illusion of progress. It feels like learning, but it's often just avoidance. Women, on the other hand, consume emotionally. They connect deeply with stories, people, and feelings. But when that connection happens before creation, it overwhelms them. They start their day absorbing rather than expressing, carrying the weight of the world before they've even honored their own truth. Creation isn't just about art. It's about ownership. To create before you consume means you choose to shape your thoughts before the world shapes them for you. It's writing your own sentence before reading someone else's. It's thinking before reacting, feeling before responding. Creativity doesn't demand time, it demands attention. The first few minutes of your morning decide who's in control, your imagination or your impulse. The more you consume before creating, the more your ideas become echoes instead of originals. The creative mind needs space, not stimulation. When you fill your silence with content, you leave no room for ideas to breathe. Consumption floods the mind with noise, while creation clears it with purpose. Men often mistake consuming for preparing. They believe they need more data before taking action. But information without intention is paralysis. Women often mistake consuming for connection. They believe they're nurturing empathy, but end up diluting their intuition. True creation begins when both learn to listen inward before looking outward. When you start your day by creating, you set the tone for leadership rather than followership. You don't wait for the world to tell you what to think, what to want, or how to feel. You lead with expression instead of reaction. Whether it's writing a thought, sketching an idea, moving your body, or simply sitting in reflection, creation establishes ownership over your direction. The smallest creative act can rewire an entire day. The balance between creating and consuming defines your creative morning. One fuels you, the other depletes you. Men rediscover clarity when they express before absorbing the noise of the world. Women regain strength when they create from intuition instead of reaction. Because the truth is, you can't pour from an empty mind. And every time you consume before you create, you're letting the world drink first from your imagination. Before you ever open your mouth, people can already feel you. Long before words shape meaning, energy shapes perception. Your energy sets the tone before your words do. It's the invisible introduction that speaks louder than language. Every morning, before you step into the world, you are broadcasting something. The question isn't whether you're sending a signal, it's whether you're aware of what it's saying. Energy is contagious. It leads rooms, shifts moods, and builds trust faster than any speech could. Men often underestimate how much their energy communicates. They're taught to focus on what they say, what they achieve, and how they perform. But energy is the currency of leadership. And when their energy is off, their message loses power. A man who carries stress into his morning carries it into every conversation that follows. He may speak with confidence, but people can still feel the tension underneath. For women, energy carries a deeper layer of intuition. They often sense before they hear. They can feel disconnection even when words sound right. Yet many women suppress that sensitivity, mistaking it for weakness, when in truth it's their greatest strength. It allows them to read what isn't being said. A creative morning begins not with activity, but with alignment. It's about checking in with yourself before you check your schedule. When your energy is grounded, your presence becomes magnetic. People don't respond to your words. They respond to the state you're in when you say them. If you begin the day anxious, the day mirrors it back. If you start it centered, the day follows your rhythm. Energy sets direction long before intention turns into action. It's the first impression you give yourself and the world every single morning. Most men think discipline is what sets the tone for their day. They push through fatigue, ignore emotion, and call it strength. But suppressed energy doesn't disappear. It leaks. It shows up as frustration, impatience, or disconnection. True discipline isn't about control, it's about alignment. It's learning to manage your energy before managing your time. Women, on the other hand, often give away their energy too freely. They start their day attending to others' needs before tending to their own. The result is emotional exhaustion disguised as kindness. The most creative mornings happen when both men and women reclaim ownership of their energy, when they decide that how they feel internally matters as much as what they accomplish externally. Your presence carries your message long before your words ever do. Think about the leaders, creators, or friends who inspire you most. They don't speak louder, they feel clearer. Their calm isn't passive, it's powerful. Their enthusiasm isn't noisy, it's contagious. They've learned that energy is influence, not expression. Every idea they share, every interaction they lead, is backed by the quiet conviction of alignment. Before you can inspire others, you have to regulate yourself. Energy begins in the unseen. The tone of your thoughts, the quality of your breath, the state of your heart. A creative morning isn't just about doing, it's about tuning. Tuning your mind to gratitude, your body to calm, your purpose to clarity. Because the truth is, people rarely remember exactly what you said. They remember you made them feel, and that feeling starts long before you ever say a word. Every day begins with a decision that seems small but shapes everything that follows. Whether you own your morning or surrender it, the morning you own is the future you build. It's not about waking up early. It's about waking up on purpose. It's about realizing that the first hour of your day is not of your routine. It's a message to the universe about who you intend to be. Most people don't lose control of their lives all at once. They lose it quietly in the moments they hand their mornings to distraction, urgency, or someone else's agenda. Ownership starts when you decide that your morning belongs to you before it belongs to the world. Men often believe that the future is built through hard work alone. They push through exhaustion, chase deadlines, and equate success with sacrifice. But what they fail to see is that the day doesn't start when the work begins. It starts when the mind aligns. A man who owns his morning is a man who builds his future with clarity, not chaos. He doesn't let his phone dictate his priorities or his stress define his direction. He understands that every morning is an investment into his mindset, and mindset compounds faster than money ever will. The strength of his focus determines the strength of his leadership, and both are forged before anyone else even sees him. For women, owning the morning looks different, but carries the same power. Too often, women wake up already in service to others, answering messages, preparing for responsibilities, thinking about everyone else's needs before their own. But when a woman takes back her morning, she takes back her voice. She reclaims her energy before it's drained by obligation. She remembers that nurturing herself first isn't selfish, it's strategic. The morning becomes her moment of realignment, a sacred pause that reminds her she's not just managing life, she's creating it. When she owns that space, her confidence, intuition, and calm ripple through the rest of the day. The morning isn't just a time of day. It's a psychological reset. It's the gap between who you were yesterday and who you're choosing to be today. When you begin your morning reactively, your future becomes reactive too. But when you start intentionally, everything you do flows from direction rather than distraction. The future doesn't surprise those who prepare. It rewards those who begin with presence. The most successful people aren't just disciplined with their time. They're protective of their energy. They don't let the morning rush them into the day. They use it to design it. Men thrive when they have momentum, but momentum without meaning burns out quickly. The morning is where that meaning is built. It's where vision becomes tangible through small acts of alignment. Reading something that fuels purpose, moving the body that carries the dream, speaking thoughts that strengthen belief. Women thrive when they feel connected, but connection without boundaries leads to depletion. Owning the morning gives them permission to connect with themselves before the world asks for pieces of them. In that stillness, creativity isn't forced, it flows. Every morning holds the same potential, but not everyone sees it. Most people wake up and step into yesterday carrying the same doubts, fears, and distractions as before. But those who own their morning rewrite the script. They create a rhythm that the day must follow, not the other way around. They build a future not through grand gestures, but through small, consistent choices made before the noise begins. The man who wins his morning doesn't need to chase control later. The woman who protects her peace early doesn't lose it when chaos comes. Because the morning you own isn't just the start of your day. It's the blueprint of your destiny.